So I thought, right, if we're thinking about festivals, clearly what's on a lot of people's minds, and maybe people have talked this to death as of late, is the Fyre Festival and what that means. So since we have Janine right here, who's an attorney, I thought it would be interesting just to start off and get her oops, I'm sorry, hit you with my pad. Just to get her perspective on some of the issues that she thought of when she heard about the festival, some of what sort of emerged in her mind as a result of the debacle that was that event. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Relix. So it's funny you just said the Fyre Festival, the Fyre Festival, because Dave Fry, we were joking that his name is so similar.
It's an anagram, in fact.
I did get a lot of inquiries about it, actually.
Exactly. The good news, it has nothing to do with Dave. I've worked with most of these people on the panel on many events, and the sad thing about this event is that people put a lot of effort into putting on great events, and it's a very long and arduous process and very involved in what you need to do before you start. And people take it very seriously, and when events like this happen, it hurts the whole industry because it makes it harder for new people to come in the market. People are fearful of being paid. They're fearful what the experience is going to be like, and it's just all around bad. So as an example, Bonnaroo, when they did the first Bonnaroo, they hired the entire Fish team that had put on, all of the overnight events that Fish had done for many years to great success, with 60 to 100,000 people. And they used a tried and tested team, for accounting, legal, security, sanitation, down the whole line to make sure they had the best possible event. I'm not a promoter, but my guess is, and the other panelists could talk to it, that there's probably a 12 to 18 month lead time before really an event can take place, right? First, you have to find a location. You have to make sure that there's adequate ingress and egress and, not gonna mess up all the local traffic patterns. You have to make sure there's enough sanitation means for people. There's just so many different, you have to deal with the local cops and fire departments and the town and noise ordinances. This is all even before you start booking, right? Just to make sure you can get your permits to put on the event. And so there is so much that goes into it. It really takes a village to put on a great event. And from what I can tell with this one is it didn't have a lot of lead time. It didn't have a lot of thought into it. And, the debacle that it's created has wide-ranging implications, including a lot of incoming festivals in the business now, and even people that do these on a regular basis. It's difficult for them to have deals where they can pay. It used to be that you can pay 10 or 20% up front, and then you pay the balance when the event happens, and you're able to take the money from the ticket sales in order to pay everything. Now, because of events like this, if you're a newcomer in the industry, you cannot even put an event on sale until you put everyone's money in a bank at least, and they know that 100% of the bill is going to be ready to be paid. An act may want 100% of the money available in their lawyer's account. Vendors may want it, and so this is before you've been able to sell any tickets. So to come up with that type of financing in advance is very difficult. That's one problem. In terms of the liabilities that are faced by this, it's difficult to know how many people will really be able to get their money back. I mean, the investors behind it, presumably some of them have a lot of money. The corporate entity that owns the event probably does not have a lot of money in it. And there's a thing called piercing the so a corporation is used to shield individuals from personal liability. And it is difficult to pierce the corporate veil to get, to go to the individual shareholders to make sure that they can pay out the claims. And that depends on where the corporation exists and what the rules are in that particular state. Now, when there's fraud, and when you have a small corporation like this probably was with limited number of shareholders, there are things that you probably can find where they may not have followed certain formalities, they may not have had formal meetings, they may not have done all the proper filings, or they may not have been properly funded. And that's what I think a lot of people are trying to show fraud to try and get to the real money from investors. And that's really, the other things are, negligent inducement. And for the models, there was 400 models that were involved in this and that advertised on behalf. And in that case, there are formalities when you advertise and you're a paid influencer. There are rules under the Federal Trade Commission that people have to know that you're being paid. It has to say ad or sponsored or paid. And if those models did not say that, they may be liable for fraudulently inducing people to come to this event. So,
I want to jump across to Dan because you've put on your own events in another country, probably, and launched them probably most recently of anybody up here. Can you just talk about going into that? What sort of challenges you anticipated and which ones you didn't, and how that all played out?
Back in 2015, we threw our first CID Presents event, and that was with Luke Bryan down in Mexico. The event was called Crash My Playa. Since then, we've grown to, we did a weekend with Fish, a weekend with Dave Matthews, and a weekend with the members of the Grateful Dead and String Cheese. But when we started, it's a destination event in Mexico based around hotels where we build a stage on the beach. We were lucky that Luke Bryan believed in our vision and believed that we could pull something like this off. We'd never done anything like that before. CID had been around for 7 years at that point, kind of learning our chops in the American festival scene, on the touring circuit, working with artists, working with festivals, putting together packages, taking care of their fans. That being said, as it kind of relates to Fyre Fest, and I've been thinking about this a little bit lately, what we did is we built a stage on the beach. I think we built a beautiful venue. We found a beautiful venue, and we put people in hotel rooms. What Fyre Festival tried to do was much, much more complex than that. And at that point, like I said, CID had been around for 7 years. Cloud9 does an incredible job at what they do. They've been doing it for 15 years. And, between us, we haven't tried anything as complex as what Fyre Festival was doing. They were taking people in a private plane to a private island and putting them in shelters that they were building themselves. And, unfortunately, they didn't have the infrastructure to support that. But as far as challenges go, we were able to mitigate a lot of that, like you said, bringing in a really good team of people who are really good at what they did. We didn't try to all throw it ourselves. I think you made a really good point about Superfly and the way that they threw Bonnaroo the first year. When Mayers and Farman and all the rest of the guys had this incredible idea to throw Bonnaroo, they didn't just say, okay, well, now the 5 of us can pull it off ourselves. They brought in really skilled professionals to help them do it, to execute their vision. And I think that's really the difference between a successful first-year event and a non-successful first-year event.